guys, it's Dani, and welcome back to another video. Interlude over, let's get back into it. Number 12. There is a word in Danish called, please be very kind for probably my gross mispronunciation of this word. Hygge.
Hygge.
So this word actually also exists in Dutch, and I have this little book, so freaking cute by the way, called Lost in Translation. It's a bunch of words that don't really translate into other languages, or at least don't really translate into English. The word Hygge is also in Dutch, which is the language of the Netherlands, which I don't know how I didn't know that, but I didn't. Probably because I'm American. Gezellig.
Gezellig.
Something like that. So anyways, the way that this book defines the word is, describes much more than just coziness, a positive warm emotion or feeling rather than just something physical, and connotes time spent with loved ones, togetherness. I don't know why they use the word connotes, connotation, is that where it comes from? I don't know. I actually discovered this word when I met a friend who's from Denmark, and we were in a tent, and then there were little like patters of rain on the, fabric of the tent, and he goes, "Oh, this is so hyggelig." And I was like, "What?" What did you just say? And he's like, it's a word that exists in Danish that doesn't really exist in English. It's a sense of warmth and coziness and a sense of belonging, feeling safe. It's something like atmospheric, and it's been described to me like a bunch of different ways by a bunch of different people, but the way that I personally perceive this word is like, it's that feeling of home, but not home as in like your house. It's that feeling of home on the inside, that place where you feel safe and warm and cozy and like you belong. And maybe the understanding that I have of the word is not what it actually is, but to me it was so beautiful and profound. I just thought it was really sweet. Number 13. Strangers will look out for you. Let me tell you a story that really illustrates this point. My first day traveling alone, I had 3 different trains to take. I had a train from Berlin to Hamburg, a train from Hamburg to middle of the nowhere Denmark or something, and then that middle of nowhere Denmark to Copenhagen. I was supposed to get into Copenhagen at like 8 o'clock at night. I get to the train station and the train just never shows up. So this giant line of all the people who couldn't get to Copenhagen forms outside of like the customer service desk or information desk or whatever you call it. And there were so many people that a woman literally left the desk, came and said, "Everybody trying to get to Copenhagen, listen to me right now. Basically, you're gonna have to go to the ticket office and you will get a free ticket to go on another train to Copenhagen. There's going to be 3 trains. It's going to get in at 4:30 in the morning." I cried. That was great. And basically, when I was in the information line earlier, I was next to these 2 girls from, I believe, Colombia. And when we were in the ticket office, I saw they made it up. Our train left in 5 minutes. And I'm like, you know what? There's no way I have time for my ticket to be called and for me to even get to Copenhagen. And then these Colombian girls see me and they come up to me and they're like, "Wait girl, do you want to go to Copenhagen?" And I'm like, "Uh-huh." And they're like, "Okay, come, follow me." We're running through the train station. And I'm like, oh my God, what the hell is going on? We get to the train and they're like, apparently we never had to get tickets. That woman misinformed us. Basically because we had these tickets from before and the trains were canceled, we can just get on this train and get to Copenhagen. I get on the train, sit down, I get on my next train, and then we get to our next train station. And this was the worst part. Our train got there at 1 in the morning and our next train didn't get there until 3 in the morning. And when I'm back home, I stay up late. Like I'm such a night owl. The longer I stay in a location, the later I will stay up. But when I was traveling, like my sleep schedule was probably the most normal it's been probably since I was a child. So 1 in the morning to me is really freaking late. And I tell myself, I am not going to fall asleep in this train station. There's no way I'm going to fall asleep. I'm going to be safe. I'm going to stay awake and alert. I fell asleep in the freaking train station, like on my backpack, on the floor. But honestly, thank the Lord for this beautiful Swedish boy who I never saw again, which is kind of unfortunate. He wakes me up and he's like, "Hey, our train is here and it's leaving in 5 minutes." And I literally just grab my shit and I'm like, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh my God, thank you, thank you." Because this boy saw me asleep and decided to wake me up so that I could catch my train, I got to my hostel, I slept in an actual bed, and then I enjoyed my day in Copenhagen and got to my music festival on time. So honestly, if you just do the best you can to be safe, or even if you're, a little irresponsible like me and decide not to be the safest, oftentimes things will work out in your favor to make sure that you're looked after and cared for, even if you're alone. Number 14, always take the opportunity to watch your past self on security cameras. Like, if you have access to footage from like security cameras within a certain environment, like, you know, Big Brother style, or see people like rewatch themselves when they're blackout drunk, that's the most fun. Oh my God, people watching their blackout drunk selves doing things they don't even remember themselves doing. I've never been blackout drunk, so can't relate, losers. Ooh. It is not only so much fun, but it can actually provide you with a new and fresh perspective of yourself. Being in the first person point of view warps our perception so much more than we realize. So when later you have the opportunity to watch that footage, you get to see yourself in like a natural state within that environment. Our cameras didn't have any audio, so you didn't have like the ability to hear yourself having a conversation and being like, oh, that was cringe. Instead, you're just observing human behavior. So I'll give you a personal example that really opened my eyes to something. There was a friend who I had at the hostel, and we really got along, we really clicked, but at some point soon before he left, I got insecure that maybe like I felt like we were closer friends than he was with me. But a few weeks later, I'm watching the cameras and I was seeing myself play the guitar. And first of all, these cameras, not flattering. These cameras make you look like you have bald spots, but you don't have bald spots. But bitch, I look hot playing the guitar. I'm watching myself play the guitar and I see this friend who is like sitting on his computer and looks at me, walks over to me, sits down to listen to me play. And then when I was done playing, we literally had a conversation for like 15 minutes. He was like getting up to leave and then like would come back to like say something to me or talk to me. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm overthinking things like way too much. Clearly this person wants to be around me and spend time with me, but I didn't fully know or believe that until I saw it from an outside perspective. So please, 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 if you ever have the opportunity to do that, highly, highly recommended. Number 15, just because you don't talk to someone frequently doesn't mean your connection or your relationship with them is diminished. And you know, if you're not physically around someone and you're both just living your own lives or your lives just aren't currently intertwined, if you don't talk all the time, it's not because they don't love you a lot of the time. A lot of times it's just because you're living your own life. And if you are like confident in what you're doing and you're present in what you're doing, then yeah, you'll miss them from time to time, but your whole world won't revolve around the fact that they're not physically there. And I have one experience where I reconnected with a friend who I hadn't talked to in months. We took a spontaneous phone call and we had like an amazing conversation. And even though our lives had changed and a lot of things had happened in between us last talking, because we have such a transparent and secure relationship with each other, it didn't really matter that we hadn't talked in months because we were able to go right back into it and be just as open and just as transparent. So from that end, as long as you're able to still approach with an open heart and the other person does as well, then you'll realize that even in that distance that you had from each other, the love and the connection never went away. Number 16, I learned how to distinguish British from Australian accents because at the beginning of my trip, every single time I would guess I was wrong. I was talking to one girl who's from Australia and I was telling her, I still have a really hard time distinguishing a British from an Australian accent. Can you please help me out? And she said, one of the big differences is Australians use more diphthongs when they talk, where their voice kind of goes like, ugh, and that's a terrible example because Australians don't sound like that. Her saying that, it completely made it where I was actually able to distinguish it 90% of the time. I personally find that British accents are a little more nasally, not that they're actually sounding like but they just talk more from this part of their voice, and Australians kind of speak more from the back of their throat. That's what I observe. I'm not an expert in accents, okay? Please excuse my terrible British and Australian accent. In Australia, may speak more like, can I have a bottle of water? I want to go to the bottle out and get some tequila and some beer. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
Easter Bilby gets a knife and murders children.
Oh my God.
A British accent may sound more like, hello, I'm gonna have a bottle of water and then I'm gonna go to the loo and I'm going to have, you know, a cup of tea. I don't know why I'm saying such cliche things. It's because I don't know what to say.
Cool, blimey. This is a nice bloody surprise. What's this about then?
Really? It's about the weird, fake English accent.
Bollocks.
Even though my accents are not the best, I got to the point where my success with identifying the differences between the two accents got pretty good, but I could still never tell the difference between an Australian and a Kiwi until I was talking to an Australian girl, and we were just talking about like what our favorite accents are. And I was like, for me, I would say my favorite accent is the Australian accent, or I guess like Australian and Kiwi would probably be tied for first because I can't really tell the difference. And she was like, you like the Kiwi accent? You like the way they say six? And ever since then, I realized the only way that I can ever tell the difference is that Australians say ease like ease. So I would say 10, and an Australian would say 10, whereas someone from New Zealand would say tin, like tinfoil. And the best video to illustrate this point is this meme.
If you're like me, you find it very hard to keep your dick dry. Then I discovered Schaefer's New Zealand style dick sealant. First, wash your dick with soap and water. I'll often have 20 to 30 people on my dick at once, and they've all had a good time.
And ever since then, I could, well, more than 50% success rate-ish identify the difference, but you know, we're still getting there. Number 17, no matter how much somebody likes you or how they feel about you, if they're not ready to step up, there is nothing you can do to make them. Now look, there are situations where maybe somebody is like kind of on the verge where they're not really ready to get into a relationship, but then they have very strong feelings for someone, and so they within themselves make the decision to pursue that connection, and therefore they become ready through the inspiration from that other person. But if somebody is really deep in a certain pattern, you want to have a monogamous relationship, and this person is in a period of their life, or just in general, wants to get with a lot of people, if they're not in the place where they're ready or want to get into that relationship, even if they really have strong feelings for you, they're probably not going to do that. Right person, wrong time is such a real thing, and if someone is really great with you and you really click and you really get along and you make the efforts to want to pursue something or simply just to see where something goes, and the other person is not in that state of mind where they're ready for that, then they're not going to do it. And it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with how attractive you are, how likable you are, how much they enjoyed their time with you. What really matters in that context is where that person is within themselves. And once you accept that, when people don't want more with you, you take it less personally. It's honestly taken me a little bit of time to get to this point, but it's actually kind of crazy how far I've come. The beginning of this year when I made that video on limerence, I'm not even gonna lie, like I was in the thick of it. And since making that video, I have become so much more confident and secure in the context of relationships. If someone's just not ready, it's not about how they feel about me necessarily. It is oftentimes way more about the fact that they're not ready for that. Number 18, if you're a person who worries a lot about being rude, you're probably not the person who needs to worry about it. Granted, like if you do something that may come off as rude, or if you hurt somebody's feelings, take accountability when it's time to take accountability. But don't prematurely feel bad about like wanting to do your own thing or not wanting to kind of go with the group. We're human. We're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna do things that hurt other people's feelings. And so long as we're operating with an open heart and we respect people's boundaries and listen to them when they're uncomfortable, we don't really need to worry about it. If you never worry about it and people talk to you about it all the time and you have literally zero concern, then maybe you're the person who needs to be a little more conscientious, but it's your life at the end of the day. If you want to be a rude person, that's fine. I'm just not gonna be friends with you. Number 19, use Snapchat to take photos and videos. Or, you know, have some way to back up the photos and videos and media that you capture on your phone. There was one day where I was just playing music, enjoying myself. My phone had been working perfectly fine, and out of nowhere, my iPhone 11 just decided to stop working. It was Apple logo off, Apple logo off. So I operated without a phone at all for a week. Get to the Apple store, explain the problem, and the guy was like, yeah, this is useless. And I was like, well, that's great, because kind of need a phone to, you know, exist in the modern world. I ended up having to buy a new phone. Here she is. She's a beauty. Oh, I just turned on my flashlight. That's super embarrassing. This is my phone. I lost essentially all the photos and videos that I took on my trip, aside from what I took on Snapchat. But if I had backed up my photos to my computer or to some kind of hard drive, then I would have never lost all of that content. And thankfully, I took some stuff on Snapchat because it saves to like the Snapchat cloud. It's such a good way for you to just kind of automatically store something on the go, not even having to worry about it or think about it. So if there is is a circumstance where your phone is stolen or where your phone breaks unexpectedly or something happens to your technology, that you have a way to restore at least something. I honestly don't even use Snapchat to send almost anything. Most things that I capture on there, I just hit the save button and I delete it. Number 20, if you're unsure about a certain decision, make it your default to say yes to doing something different. There are so many teachers who I love and who I respect who say, if you're unsure about something, say no. The reason I personally am disagreeing with this is because within myself, I really have the tendency to stay in my comfort zone and to do the familiar thing because it's easier, it's lower stress, and you know me, I definitely have an affinity with anxiety. We're really close friends. Therefore, it's much easier for me to say no when I'm uncertain about something. And so at one point, I decided, you know what, I'm going to just start saying yes to things more often and doing things differently. When you do things differently, you have different experiences. You meet different kinds of people. You encounter opportunities you would have otherwise never encountered. And so if you say yes to doing something different or something you've never done before, or maybe something you've done before but something you don't do very often, you put yourself in a new unfamiliar situation. And those situations oftentimes are the things that like change your life. It's so common that people are uncertain about something and are like, you know what, go with the easy decision, or go with the not doing anything decision, or the decision of doing what you already know how to do. And I think we miss out on so many opportunities when we do that. In fact, before I went to Europe, I was really unsure if I was even gonna go. I literally put off getting my passport because I was unsure. I didn't get my passport finalized until the day before I left. So I wasn't even certain at all if I was even gonna be able to go. I got my passport, went on the flight, decided to travel solo, and I legitimately do not think I will ever be the same. I think this has changed my life for the better in so many ways. I've learned so much. I feel so much more inspired to pursue the things I'm passionate about. I feel so much more comfortable with new people. I feel like I'm able to actually like meet people who I resonate with, and it's because I said yes to doing something different that I had this experience. You never know what opportunities you can come across when you do something different. But if you're doing the same thing every day and you always stay in your house, or you always go to the same bar, or you always do the same thing, then you neglect yourself the opportunity to have other experiences that could introduce you to more of yourself. If you're unsure about something, especially if you're an indecisive person, make it your default to say yes as opposed to no. Number 21, if you leave, you can always come back. This is probably one of the things that I said to myself most when I was traveling. I'm gonna use Copenhagen as an example. I ended up staying 45 days in Denmark when I was only supposed to be there for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. And the reason I did that is because I went to Denmark, I got the virus that is named after a really good beer. And so I had to quarantine there for 2 weeks, and I ended up like not leaving when I was going to leave. And I ended up really, really falling in love with Copenhagen. And when I left, I was still kind of like, I don't know if I'm like ready to leave. But then I told myself, if you leave, you can always come back. Maybe in a few years I go back and like the people I met there are no longer there and the environment's different or something changes. Like, I'm not saying that if you leave somewhere, things aren't going to change. It's more so that don't hold yourself to something because you're afraid you're going to miss it. Allow yourself to continue to live your life, and if something's really pulling you back to a certain location or experience or place, you can always return to that experience. And the final point, number 22, don't do things for the end result. Do things for the enjoyment of it. This also aligns to the idea of don't do things to please other people or to make other people like you or to get other people to be a certain way for you. Do things for you. The hardest thing about being a content creator is your success in this field relies on people watching you and people enjoying your content. And so there's this idea of like, I need to have a certain number of subscribers, I need to get a certain amount of views, I need to have a certain amount of success, and it all relies on other people watching you and clicking on your videos. And so a lot of times it's really easy to fall into the trap of like, well, I have to make something that other people are going going to watch and other people are going to like. Are they gonna find that tangent boring? Are they gonna enjoy this? Are they gonna enjoy that? But I've been making videos since I was a little kid. Every single time I would hang out with my close friends, I'd get my laptop and we would just film videos on that little potato Mac camera. And when I started this channel, I knew I enjoyed video content creating, but a lot of it did come down to me wanting to do things to please other people, or me trying to get to the end result of being a content creator. And as I spent time away and kind of decided, you know what, I'm gonna take a proper break from content creation. I'm not even going to like think about it. I'm not gonna focus on it. I'm not going to get myself jumbled up about it. That's when I realized when I come back, I don't wanna just sit down and do the same kind of videos and try to just be a successful YouTuber or whatever it may be. When I come back, I wanna come back and film videos that I want to film. I love talking about what I'm talking about. That's why I built a channel off of these kinds of things. But at the end of the day, I don't wanna be coming on camera to get to an end result, because then I'd get to that result where I'm making money and I'm filming myself and I'm doing everything and I'm miserable. Like, I know people who've done that. I know people who've been there, and I'm like, I don't want to just keep doing this because I'm making money. And this applies to so many areas of your life. Like, don't hook up with someone because you want to be in the relationship with them. Hook up with someone because they're there and you're in the present moment and it feels right and it feels good. Paint that painting because you really want to play with it and enjoy it. Don't do it because you want to have a gallery and be a successful artist. It's great to have that intention. That intention helps. To say like, oh, I don't even care if I'm a content creator or not isn't exactly true, but I'm not doing it for that end result. I'm doing it with the intention of that idea in mind, but knowing that I'm here because I enjoy it. So that by the time you get to that end result, which end result doesn't even really exist until you die. Even when you get to that place that you think you need or want to be happy, if you spend all your time unhappy getting there, what makes you think that being in that cycle sustainably is going to feel good, you know? It's important for you to enjoy the process of doing something that fulfills you, and then when you get to that place where you achieve what you wanted to achieve, you realize, wow, I'm so grateful that I did this from a place of satisfaction, because now my whole life and my abundance is centered around me doing what I love and being with who I love and enjoying that time together. Anyways, that is about it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, please hit that button. If you want to comment something, you know, like how cute my new haircut is or anything like that, or any compliments or criticisms about my terrible Australian British accents, please leave them in the comments below. Like, subscribe, click all the buttons. All right, love ya. See you next time.